You didn't come this far for nothing. Every pain you felt, every tear you cried, every night you felt alone, it all had a purpose. You may not understand it yet, but God was preparing you, preparing your heart, preparing your mind, preparing your life. Because something is about to change. Someone is about to enter your life, and this time it will be different. Not like before, not confusing, not painful, not temporary, but real. You have been through enough. You gave your love to the wrong people. You trusted people who broke you. You held on to relationships that were never meant to last. And every time it ended, you thought something was wrong with you. But the truth is, God was protecting you. If those people stayed, they would have hurt you even more. If those relationships continued, they would have destroyed your peace. So God removed them, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Right now, you may feel like nothing is happening. You may feel like you are stuck, like your life is not moving forward. But behind the scenes, God is working. He is aligning things. He is arranging situations. He is preparing someone just for you. And when the time is right, everything will happen suddenly. You will meet them when you least expect it. And something inside you will feel calm. Not nervous, not anxious, but peaceful. Because real love doesn't confuse you. Real love doesn't make you overthink. Real love feels like home. And this time, you won't have to chase. You won't have to beg. You won't have to prove your worth. Because the right person will see your value without you explaining it. They will stay. They will understand. They will respect you. And most importantly, they will not leave when things get hard. But before that happens, there is something you must do. You must let go of the past. Let go of the pain. Let go of the memories. Let go of the person who hurt you. Because you cannot receive something new if you are still holding on to something old. God cannot bring the right person into your life if your heart is still attached to the wrong one. So take this moment and choose yourself. Choose your peace. Choose your growth. Choose your future. Because what is coming is bigger than what you lost, stronger than what broke you, and better than anything you have experienced before. So don't lose hope. Don't doubt God. And don't think your story is over, because this is just the beginning. A new chapter is about to start, and this time, it will be worth everything you went through.
Ash calm. I still remember the day she came into my life. It didn't feel like something ordinary. It felt like destiny. The way we met, the way we connected, everything felt too perfect to be random. She understood me in a way no one ever did. We talked for hours without getting tired. I shared my dreams, my fears, my past, and she listened like she truly cared. Slowly, she became my world. I believed she was my soulmate. Days turned into months, and my love for her only grew stronger. I trusted her completely. I thought she would always stay. I thought this was forever. But one day, everything changed. She became distant. Her messages became shorter. Her voice felt cold. I tried to ignore it at first, thinking it was just a phase. But deep inside, I knew something was wrong. I asked her many times, "Is everything okay?" She said, "Yes." But her actions said something else. And then one day, she left. No explanation. No goodbye. No reason. Just silence. That silence hurt more than anything. I kept staring at my phone, hoping she would message me. I kept replaying our memories, trying to understand where I went wrong. Was I not enough? Did I love too much? Why did she leave me like this? Those questions kept repeating in my mind every single day. Nights became the hardest. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I felt empty. Like a part of me was missing. I didn't just lose her. I lost myself. In that broken state, I did something I had never done before. I turned to God. Not because I was strong, but because I had no one else left. I prayed with tears in my eyes. God, please bring her back. Please fix this. But days passed. Nothing changed. She didn't come back. Instead, something inside me started changing. Slowly, I began to feel a different kind of peace. Not happiness, but calmness. It felt like God was telling me, let go. At first, I resisted. I didn't want to let her go. I still believed she was meant for me. But the more I prayed, the more I realized something. If she was truly meant for me, she wouldn't have left without a reason. And that truth hit me hard. Weeks passed. I started focusing on myself. I started rebuilding my life piece by piece. It wasn't easy. Some days I felt strong. Some days I broke down again. But I kept moving forward. And then one day, I found out the truth. She didn't just leave. She chose someone else. At that moment, I felt pain again. But not the same pain as before. This time it was different. It was clarity. I finally understood why God didn't bring her back, because He was protecting me. What I thought was love was actually a lesson. What I thought was my soulmate was just a chapter in my life, and that realization changed everything. I stopped blaming myself. I stopped chasing her. I stopped living in the past. Instead, I started trusting God's plan. Now, when I look back, I don't feel anger. I feel grateful, because if she had stayed, I would have never grown. I would have never found my strength. I would have never come closer to God. Sometimes the person you think is your soulmate is actually the person who teaches you how to love yourself again. And sometimes God removes people not to hurt you, but to save you. So if you are going through the same pain right now, let go. Trust God, because what is meant for you will never leave you like that. And what leaves you was never truly yours. But my story didn't end there, because even after I understood the truth, even after I accepted that she was gone, there were still moments when my heart refused to move on. There were days when I felt strong, and there were nights when everything came back again. Her voice, her smile, her memories, it was like my mind was free, but my heart was still holding on. I kept asking God, why does it still hurt even after I know the truth? And slowly, I began to understand something deeper. Healing is not instant. Letting go is not a one-time decision. It's a process. Every single day, you have to choose yourself again. Every single day, you have to remind your heart that what left was not meant to stay. And that was the hardest part, because loving someone is easy, but unlearning that love is painful. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And little by little, I started changing, not for her, but for myself. I started doing things I once ignored. I started focusing on my future. I started building a life that didn't depend on anyone else. And something powerful happened. I found peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because I stopped fighting reality. And in that peace, I felt God closer than ever before. It was like He was guiding me step by step. Whenever I felt weak, something would remind me to stay strong. Whenever I felt like going back, something would stop me. And I realized God wasn't just healing me. He was protecting me from going back to something that would break me again. One day, I saw her again, not in person, but on social media. She looked happy. She moved on. And for a moment, my heart paused. All the memories rushed back in a second. But this time, something was different. I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel the need to go back. I just looked and smiled silently because I finally understood. That chapter was over, and I was no longer the same person who got hurt. I had grown. I had changed. I had healed. And most importantly, I had learned my worth. That moment was powerful because for the first time, I felt free. Free from the past, free from the pain, free from the attachment. And that's when I realized something life-changing. The person you think you need is not always the person God has planned for you. Sometimes God removes someone so you can become the person you were meant to be. And maybe, just maybe, the real soulmate you are waiting for is still coming. Someone who won't leave. Someone who won't confuse you. Someone who will stay, even in your worst moments. And when that person comes, you will understand why everything else had to end. So if you are still holding on to someone who left you, let them go. Not because they don't matter, but because you matter more. Trust God's plan, because He sees what you don't. And one day, everything will make sense. And just when I thought my story was finally over, life surprised me again. Because healing doesn't just end with peace. Sometimes it brings a new beginning. Months passed, and I was no longer the same person. I wasn't searching for love anymore. I wasn't chasing anyone. I wasn't waiting for her to come back for the first time in a long time. I was simply living peacefully. And that's when something unexpected happened. I met someone new. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't instant. It wasn't overwhelming like before. It was calm. It was simple. And somehow it felt right. There were no mixed signals, no confusion, no fear of losing them. Just understanding, just respect, just peace. At first I was scared, not because of them, but because of my past. I didn't want to go through the same pain again. I didn't want to trust and then break. But slowly, I realized something. Not everyone is the same. Not every story ends in a heartbreak, and not every person is meant to hurt you. Some people come into your life to stay. And this time, I didn't rush. I didn't give everything at once. I took my time. I listened more. I observed more. I trusted slowly. And that made all the difference. Because now, I wasn't loving from a place of fear. I was loving from a place of strength. And that changes everything. One day, while sitting quietly, I thought about my past again. About her. About the pain. About everything I went through. And for the first time, I smiled. Not because it didn't hurt before, but because it made me who I am today. I finally understood the full truth. If she never left, I would have never grown. If I was never broken, I would have never found God like this. If I never lost her, I would have never found myself. And that realization was beautiful. Because what once felt like the worst thing in my life became the reason my life changed for the better. And in that moment, I quietly said, "Thank you, God. Thank you for the pain. Thank you for the lessons. Thank you for not giving me what I wanted, and instead giving me what I needed. Because now I see clearly. Sometimes God doesn't answer your prayers because He has something better waiting. Something you cannot see yet. Something you are not ready for yet. But something that will change your life completely. So if you are watching this right now and your heart is broken, if someone left you, if you feel lost and confused, listen carefully. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your transformation. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Prepared for something better. Prepared for something real. Prepared for something that will not leave you. So don't lose hope. Don't go back to what hurt you. And don't doubt God's plan. Because one day, you will look back at this moment and you will understand everything. And when that day comes, you won't cry anymore. You won't question anymore. You will just smile and say, God knew what he was doing. God is not silent right now. And if you are listening to this message, it is not by accident. It is not random. And it is not just another video you clicked on. This is something you were meant to hear at this exact moment because there is something happening in your life that you cannot fully see yet, something connected to your soulmate, something deeper than emotions, deeper than distance, and deeper than what you understand right now. And God wants you to pay attention because your soulmate is going through a difficult time, a silent struggle that they may not even show to the world. And even though you may feel separated, disconnected, or confused about where things stand between you and them, the truth is, your connection has not been broken. It has only been tested, and sometimes God allows distance, pain, and separation not to end something, but to prepare both people for something greater. And right now, your soulmate is facing a situation that is changing them from the inside, a situation that is forcing them to grow, to realize, and to understand things they could not see before. And even though you are not physically there with them, your energy, your presence, and your connection is still affecting them in ways you cannot imagine. Because some connections are not just emotional. They are spiritual. They are guided, and they are part of a bigger plan that God has already written. And the reason you feel restless sometimes, the reason you think about them unexpectedly, the reason you feel a sudden emotion without explanation is because something is happening on their side, something that is connected to you, and God is allowing you to feel it, not to confuse you, but to prepare you, because what is coming next will require strength, patience, and faith, and if you are not ready, you may misunderstand it, you may react the wrong way, and you may lose something that was meant for you, and that is why this message is important, because God is telling you to stay calm, stay grounded, and most importantly, stay connected to Him. Do not let fear control your thoughts. Do not let doubt take over your mind. And do not let past pain define your actions, because what you are about to experience is not the same as before. This is not the same cycle repeating. This is something different, something that has been prepared over time. And even though it may not look perfect at the beginning, it will have a purpose and you will understand it later, but only if you trust the process now. And one of the biggest mistakes people make in moments like this is acting out of emotion instead of faith. They rush, they overthink, they assume the worst, and they push away what was actually meant to come closer, and God is warning you not to do that. He is asking you to be still, to observe, and to trust Him even when things don't make sense. Because your soulmate is also going through their own awakening, their own realization, and their own transformation. And sometimes that process looks messy. It looks confusing, and it may even look like they are moving away from you, but in reality, they are being shaped into the person they need to become before they can truly stand beside you, and that is something you must understand, because if you expect perfection immediately, you will miss the purpose of the journey, and if you judge based on what you see right now, you will not recognize what is actually happening behind the scenes. And God is working behind the scenes more than you realize. He is aligning situations, removing obstacles, and creating moments that will eventually bring clarity into your life. But timing is important, and rushing this process will only create confusion. And that is why patience is required. Not passive waiting, but active faith. Continuing your life, focusing on your growth, strengthening your relationship with God, and becoming the best version of yourself, because when the time comes, when things start to shift, you need to be ready, not broken, not desperate and not dependent, but strong, confident and grounded in your faith. And if you do that, you will see everything differently. You will not chase, you will not beg, and you will not lose yourself again. Instead, you will stand firm in who you are, and what is meant for you will come to you naturally, without force, without confusion, and without fear. And that is the kind of connection that lasts, not one built on emotion alone, but one built on understanding, growth, and divine timing. And if your soulmate is truly meant to be in your life, nothing can take that away, not distance, not time, and not even mistakes. Because what God has written cannot be erased by human actions, but it can be delayed by lack of faith. And that is why your role right now is important. You may not be able to control what they are going through, but you can control how you respond. You can choose faith over fear, patience over panic, and growth over attacks. And even as you begin to understand this message, there is still something deeper that God wants you to realize, because what is happening is not just about your soulmate, it is also about you, your growth, your faith, and your readiness for what is coming next. And many people focus only on the other person, wondering what they are doing, what they are feeling, and why they are acting the way they are, but they forget that God is also working within them at the same time, shaping their mindset, healing their wounds, and preparing their heart for something greater. And right now, you may not see it clearly, but there are parts of you that are being strengthened through this situation. Parts of you that are learning patience, self-control, and faith in ways you never had before. And that is not a small thing, because the person you are becoming right now is not the same person you were before all of this started. You are growing, even if it feels slow, even if it feels painful, and even if you don't always recognize it. And that growth is necessary because what God is preparing for you requires a stronger version of you. Not the version that depends on others for happiness, not the version that loses itself in relationships, but the version that stands firm in faith, in purpose, and in identity. And that is why this process cannot be rushed, because if you receive something too early without being ready, it can break instead of build. And God does not want to give you something that will collapse. He wants to give you something that will last, something that is built on a strong foundation. And foundations take time. They take pressure, they take patience, and they take trust. And that is exactly what you are being tested in right now. Your patience, your trust, and your faith. And there will be moments when you feel like giving up. Moments when you question everything. Moments when you wonder if it is even worth it to keep believing. But those moments are part of the journey. They are not signs to quit. They are signs that you are being stretched beyond your comfort zone. And growth always happens outside of comfort, never inside it. And as you continue forward, you will start to notice small changes, not just in your situation, but within yourself. You will react differently, you will think differently, and you will feel differently. And those changes are important because they show that you are evolving. You are becoming someone who is no longer controlled by emotions alone, but guided by faith and understanding. And that shift is powerful because it changes everything about how you experience life. And as this shift continues, you will begin to see your past more clearly. You will understand why certain things didn't work out, why certain people left, and why certain situations had to end. And instead of feeling pain when you think about them, you will feel clarity because you will see the lesson behind the experience. And once you see the lesson, the pain loses its power. And that is one of the greatest transformations you can go through because it frees you from the past and allows you to move forward without carrying unnecessary weight. And as you let go of that weight, you create space for new opportunities, new experiences, and new connections to enter your life. And that is when things start to change more noticeably. Because when you are no longer holding on tightly to what is gone, you become open to what is coming. And God works best in open hearts, not closed ones. And if your heart is filled with fear, doubt, or attachment to the past, It becomes difficult to receive what He is trying to give you, but when you release those things, even little by little, you create room for something better to take their place, and that is exactly what God wants for you. Not just a temporary solution, not just a short moment of happiness, but something deeper, something lasting, something that aligns with your purpose and your future, and that may or may not include your soulmate in the way you expect. And that is something you must be open to, because sometimes we hold on to a specific outcome, thinking that it is the only way we can be happy. But God sees a bigger picture, a wider path, and a better destination. And trusting that bigger picture requires surrender, not giving up, but letting go of control, letting go of the need to know everything, and allowing things to unfold naturally. And that is not easy, especially when emotions are involved, but it is necessary if you want to experience true peace. Because peace does not come from having everything figured out. It comes from trusting that everything will work out in the right time. And as you continue this journey, you will start to notice signs, small moments that feel meaningful, unexpected feelings of calm, sudden clarity about things that once confused you, and these are not coincidences. They are reminders that you are being guided, though. Jesus knew this moment would come into my life long before I ever realized it, because sometimes the biggest changes begin with the deepest pain. And I never expected that the person I trusted the most would become the reason I had to rebuild myself completely. She came into my life like a blessing, or at least that's what I believed at the time. Everything about her felt right, the way she spoke, the way she understood me, the way she made me feel like I was finally seen and valued, and slowly, without even realizing it, I gave her my heart, my trust, and my future. I believed she was my soulmate, the one God had chosen for me, and I built my life around that belief. But sometimes, what feels like a blessing at the beginning turns into a lesson in the end. And I learned that in the hardest way possible, because one day, without warning, everything changed. Her love faded. Her presence became distant, and the connection we once shared started to disappear. I tried to hold on. I tried to fix things. I tried to believe that love was enough to keep us together. But love cannot stay where it is not valued. And eventually, the truth came out. She had chosen someone else. In that moment, it felt like my entire world collapsed, not slowly but all at once. The dreams I built shattered, the trust I gave was broken, and the future I imagined disappeared in front of my eyes. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to move forward. I only knew that I was in pain. A kind of pain that words cannot fully describe. Nights became longer, thoughts became heavier, and my heart felt empty in a way I had never experienced before. I questioned everything. I questioned my worth, my decisions, and even my faith, asking why something like this had to happen to me. But there were no answers, only silence, and sometimes that silence feels louder than anything else. But it was in that silence that something unexpected happened. I found myself turning toward Jesus, not because I had strong faith, but because I had nowhere else to go. I didn't pray perfectly, I didn't have the right words, I just spoke honestly. I told him about my pain, my confusion, and my broken heart, and slowly, something started to change. Not around me, but within me. The pain didn't disappear instantly, but it became easier to carry. It felt like I was no longer alone in my struggle, like someone was walking with me through the darkness, guiding me step by step, and as days passed, I began to see things differently. I started to understand that not everything that leaves your life is a loss. Sometimes it is a removal, a protection, a redirection towards something better, even if it doesn't feel that way in the moment, and that realization changed my mindset. I stopped asking why she left, and I started asking what I needed to learn. I started focusing on myself, rebuilding my confidence, strengthening my faith, and finding peace within, I spent more time in prayer, not just asking for things, but listening, reflecting, and growing. And the more I did that, the stronger I became. The pain that once controlled me slowly lost its power, and I began to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Real peace, the kind that doesn't depend on people or situations, but comes from within. And one day, I realized something that changed everything. I realized that I had been chasing love in the wrong place. I had been searching for completeness in another person, when the truth was, I needed to find it within myself and through my faith. And once I understood that, everything became clearer. I was no longer desperate for love. I was no longer afraid of being alone. I was no longer defined by my past. Instead, I felt stronger, wiser, and more prepared for whatever comes next. And as I continued moving forward, I began to notice new opportunities, new connections, and new moments that brought joy into my life. Not because I was trying to replace what I lost, but because I was finally open to what God had planned for me. And that is when I understood the most important lesson of all. Sometimes God removes someone from your life not to hurt you, but to heal you, to protect you from something you cannot see, and to prepare you for something far greater than you can imagine. And if you are listening to this right now, feeling the same pain, the same confusion, the same heartbreak, I want you to remember this one truth. What you lost is not your future. It is only a part of your journey. Your story is still being written, and the best part has not even begun yet. Trust Jesus, even when it's hard. Trust the process, even when it doesn't make sense, because one day, everything will fall into place, and you will understand why everything had to happen the way it did. And when that day comes, you will not feel broken. You will feel grateful, because you will realize that your pain was not the end. It was the beginning of your transformation. And even after that transformation began, there were still days when memories tried to return. Not to break me like before, but to test how far I had come. Because healing is not about forgetting. It is about becoming stronger than what once hurt you. And there were moments when I would think about her again. The way she smiled, the way she spoke, the promises she made, and for a second, my heart would feel that old pain trying to come back, but this time, something was different. I was no longer the same person who depended on those memories. I had grown, I had changed, and I had learned to see things from a higher perspective. And in that perspective, I realized something powerful. I realized that I was not rejected. I was redirected, and that truth gave me a kind of peace that I had never known before, because it made me understand that every closed door in my life was actually leading me toward the right one, even if I couldn't see it at the time. And as I continued moving forward, I started to notice how my mindset had completely shifted. I was no longer asking why things happened to me. I was asking what they were teaching me. And that simple change in thinking made a huge difference in the way I experienced life. I became more patient, more calm, and more focused on growth rather than loss. And slowly, I began to rebuild my life in ways I never thought possible. I started setting goals for myself, focusing on my future and creating a life that was not dependent on anyone else. And that independence gave me confidence, the kind of confidence that comes from knowing that you are enough on your own. And during this time, my relationship with Jesus became even stronger. I no longer prayed only when I was in pain. I prayed every day, not out of need, but out of connection. I started to feel His presence in my life in ways I had never experienced before, in the small moments, in the quiet thoughts, and in the peace that stayed with me even during uncertain times. And that connection became my foundation, something that could not be shaken by people or situations. And one day, something unexpected happened. I met someone new, not in a dramatic or sudden way, but in a simple, natural moment. A conversation that felt easy, comfortable, and real. And what surprised me the most was not the connection itself, But the way I reacted to it, I was calm, I was not rushing, I was not building dreams too quickly like before. I was simply present, allowing things to unfold naturally. And that was when I realized how much I had changed. I was no longer searching for someone to complete me. I was already complete. And that made all the difference, because when you are complete within yourself, you don't attach out of fear. You connect out of choice, and that is what creates something real and lasting. And as time went on, I started to understand the difference between what I had before and what I was experiencing now. The past was filled with emotions, intensity, and attachment, but it also had confusion and instability, while this new connection felt peaceful, steady, and clear. There was no need to question, no need to chase, and no fear of losing it, because it felt right in a way that didn't require explanation. And in that moment, I understood something that changed everything. Real love does not come with anxiety. It comes with peace. It does not make you feel unsure. It makes you feel secure, and it does not leave you wondering where you stand. It shows you clearly through actions and consistency. And that realization made me grateful for everything I had gone through, even the pain. Because without it, I would not have learned these lessons. I would not have grown into the person I am today, and I would not have been ready to recognize what is real. And now, when I look back at my past, I don't feel anger or regret. I feel understanding. I see it as a chapter that had to happen to bring me to where I am now. And if I could go back, I wouldn't change it, because it shaped me, it taught me, and it prepared me for something better. And if you are listening to this right now, still holding on to someone who walked away, still feeling the weight of a broken heart, I want you to understand this one truth. Your story is not over. What you are going through right now is not the end. It is a process, a transformation that is leading you toward a better version of yourself and a better future than you can imagine. And even if it feels slow, even if it feels difficult, trust that something is happening behind the scenes. Trust that God is working in your life even when you cannot see it, because one day, everything will make sense. The pain, the loss, the waiting, all of it will come together in a way that shows you that nothing was wasted. Every experience had a purpose. Every moment had a meaning, and every step was leading you exactly where you needed to be. And when that realization comes, you will no longer feel broken.
I still remember the day I chose her over everything. Not just over my friends, not just over my time, but over my own peace. Because when you truly love someone, you don't think twice. You don't hold back. You just give. And that's exactly what I did. She wasn't just a part of my life. She became my whole world. Every morning started with her message. Every night ended with her voice. Her happiness became my responsibility. If she smiled, I felt complete. If she was sad, I felt broken. That's how deeply I loved her. And I truly believed she felt the same. We made promises. Promises about forever. Promises about staying together no matter what. And I trusted those promises with all my heart. But slowly, things started changing. First, it was small. So small that I ignored it. She replied late. She stopped calling like before. She became busy all the time. I asked her, "Is everything okay?" She said, "Yes." But her actions, they said something else. And deep inside, I started feeling something I didn't want to accept. Distance. Not physical, but emotional. Still, I stayed. Because when you love someone, you don't give up easily. You fight. Even when you are the only one fighting. Days passed, and that distance kept growing. Until one day, everything changed. I saw something I was never supposed to see. A message. Not just a normal message, but something that broke me instantly. My hands started shaking. My heart started racing. I read it again, hoping I misunderstood. But the truth was clear. She was talking to someone else. Not like a friend, but like she once talked to me. In that moment, everything inside me collapsed. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My mind kept saying, This can't be real. But my heart already knew the truth. The way she talked, the way she cared, it was the same way she once treated me. And that realization, it hurt more than anything. I didn't react immediately. I just sat there, staring at the screen, trying to understand how everything changed so quickly. All the memories started flashing in my mind. Her smile, her voice, her promises. Everything felt fake now. Everything felt like a lie. I gathered the courage, and I confronted her. I asked her directly, "Who is he?" First, she tried to avoid the question. She said, "You're overthinking." She said, "It's nothing serious." But I knew something was wrong. So I showed her the message. And in that moment, she went silent. That silence said everything. No explanation, no denial, just silence. And that silence broke me completely. I asked her again, "Why did you do this?" She looked at me and said, "I didn't mean for it to happen." Those words, they didn't fix anything. They made it worse, because it meant she knew and still chose to hurt me. She didn't fight for us. She didn't try to fix things. She didn't even look guilty enough. Instead, she slowly walked away from my life, like everything we had meant nothing. That moment, I felt something inside me break forever. Not just my heart, but my trust, my belief in love, my belief in people. I kept asking myself, was I not enough? Did I love too much? Was everything just one-sided? Those questions kept repeating in my mind, again and again, and I had no answers. The pain didn't stop that day. In fact, that was just the beginning. Days passed, but nothing felt normal anymore. I woke up every morning with the same heavy feeling in my chest. I checked my phone, even though I knew there would be no message from her. Still, a small part of me hoped that she would come back, hoped that she would say, "I made a mistake." But that message never came. Instead, there was silence, a silence that slowly started destroying me from inside. I stopped talking to people. I stopped going out. Even the things I once loved, they didn't make me happy anymore. Food had no taste. Music had no meaning. Everything felt empty. Night, it was even worse, because that's when all the memories came back. Every laugh, every moment, every promise she made. I kept replaying everything in my mind, trying to understand what went wrong. But the truth was simple. She changed, and I didn't want to accept it. One night, I sat alone in my room, completely broken, and for the first time, I cried without holding back. Not silently, but loudly, like my heart couldn't carry the pain anymore. And in that moment, I realized something. I had lost myself, trying to love someone who didn't value me. That realization hit me hard, because I gave everything to someone who gave me nothing in return. And that's when I did something different. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. Instead, I looked up and spoke to God. Why did this happen to me? My voice was shaking. My heart was tired. I wasn't asking for her back anymore. I was asking for peace. And even though I didn't hear an answer, something inside me felt different. Not better, but lighter, like I wasn't carrying everything alone anymore. And that small feeling, it was the beginning of my healing.